Hi, everyone. This is Tracy with We Are Winter Garden, and I'm joined with Pastor Scott, who is the founder and CEO of Matthew's Hope, and Shelley Bradford, who is the president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to episode 39 of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, where we will be talking about the unique challenges of those experiencing homelessness in Florida during the summer months. So, Shelley, before we get into this week's topic, remind everybody where we are at.
We are in the Hope Chest store in Winter Garden, and it is fully stocked, which is amazing. And it is a great way to support Matthew's Hope.
And what is it fully stocked of?
We've recently changed our model a little bit to where we're more focused on vintage and antique type furniture. But it's a lot of hardwood furniture and home decor that has either been custom built in our shop or it's been refinished, repurposed, repaired, what have you, and brought into our shop. So it's there's some pretty amazing pieces around here and a lot more cool stuff coming in.
So people can either come into the Matthew's Hope Chest store and shop, or they can reach out to Matthew's Hope to get something custom made by the guests who are working at Matthew's Hope.
True. And right now, I'm actually looking at a couple of antique sewing machines, as well as some roll-top desks, which I remember when I was setting up my home, I could not wait to have a roll-top desk.
Yes.
And I remember my mom going, "You're such an old soul," but I just loved the idea of having a desk and then closing it up.
Right.
So we've got a couple of those in here as well. And I'm a sewer myself, and I love the idea of the antique.
Oh,
and for those that can't see us, that are just listening to us, if they can visit we have a Facebook page specifically for Matthew's Hope Chest. We have one for Brevard, and we have one for Orange County as well, because they're two different stores, different things in it. But we encourage people to check it out and let us know what they think. And if somebody has something they want to donate to us that we can either take as is or may need some love, talk to us about that as well.
And what makes these stores in Brevard County and Orange County important to the ministry?
Well, I think one is we actually use it mostly to learn people's work ethic, but because we can watch them treat it like a job when they're coming to the shop or working in the store. But it also allows people to get out of their head. They're learning skill sets. The fun part is I always like to refer to the women that have come through because they become strongly independent when they know how to use those tools. And that's just, to me, it's one more tool in their toolbox because there are women out there. I mean, my mom was one for a long time that just absolutely felt she had to have a man in her life that could do these things. And so, what I tell people all the time, I tell Charlene all the time, I want you, I don't need you. And I don't mean that in a bad thing. Right. I mean, I've chosen to be with you. It's not like I'm going to starve if you leave. In fact, I jokingly tell her sometimes I'll just go eat really nice just for myself. Yeah. I can eat really nice, really good all the time. But, in all seriousness, it's a great tool for us to use, but it also allows our guests to learn how to re-interact with people. You'll see a lot of our guests, male and female, that won't make eye contact. And all of a sudden I hate using the word forced, but they're put in a position to have to look
outside their comfort zone.
And pretty soon they're, it's like old friends. So which is really cool to watch.
Yeah.
So we're talking about experiencing homelessness in the summertime. And we're now in June, and here in Central Florida, that means daily high temps of 80s and 90s and the lows down into the mid 70s, plus plenty of humidity and frequent thunderstorms. Of course, we have the hurricanes as well. So with that being said, what are some of the challenges that those experiencing homelessness here in Florida will face this summer?
The first thing that comes to mind, I remember when I first came to Matthew's Hope, I looked at our nurse and I said, what do we do with these people that are out in this? At the time, we had a hurricane coming. And she said, we pray for them. And I was like, yikes. Dang, that's harsh. And then the next Tuesday, I was there when they all came in and said, I need new stuff. We don't think about how our livelihoods is protected under a roof.
Right.
Where our homeless guests, their livelihoods might be protected under a tarp. Maybe. And what is that tarp going to save them from?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see where, I mean, literally their tent's destroyed, the tarp blew away,
Yeah.
their clothing is destroyed. They had a sleeping bag. We can't bring their wet sleeping bags in. Our equipment would never be able to dry those things out. So we end up replacing them. Something that I just recently ordered a lot of, and it'd be great if somebody wanted to make a simple donation towards this is ponchos.
Oh, okay.
You have this time of year, you have rainy season on top of storms, on top of just daily rains, on top of this heat. You mentioned the 70s. Where are you hanging out at? Okay, because I want to go there.
Right.
I haven't seen a night below 80 for a couple of weeks where I'm at. But we go through. People don't realize what a beating their stuff takes. The other side of it too is because they're now with all this development that we've had, and we serve in 17 municipalities now, and all of them are being newly developed, and the woods are disappearing. So you have people being trespassed often, or just having to move every couple of days, if not every day. And so it makes it tougher to keep track of things and take care of things. So it's kind of like, we were talking about in some of our previous episodes, we talked about shoes. I'm always asking very specifically for running shoes. That's why I tell people, don't you dare put tennis shoes or sneakers on there. That's not what I want. I want running shoes or a mesh style shoe. It's breathable and it's washable. Okay, because homeless people typically keep their shoes on. The other challenge is when you have this much rain, those shoes weren't designed to get wet over and over again and someone not drying them out. They just leave them on until they then delaminate, fall apart. The socks get worn out really quick when they're wet and walking in them. They basically just wear a hole in them really quick. So it's a lot of little things like that we will go through just a boatload of over the next several months while we go through this season in Florida.
So the consequences of the rain: shoes are getting wet, backpacks are getting wet,
sleeping bags, tents are getting torn up in the storms.
So those are some things that people can donate, like tarps.
Yeah, and we try to be
Running
very
shoes.
specific. We try to get, our preference is what we call a 4-man tent.
Okay.
I don't know what 4-man they're talking about, okay? But they're really good for a single man or woman with some stuff.
Okay.
So that's, normally it's a 9x7 tent. So we ask for 8x10 tarps. We prefer brown tarps or camouflage tarps. There's
Why is
nothing
that?
worse than giving a homeless person a blue tarp.
Right.
Targeted.
Why not just give them a siren and let them turn it on so that everybody can say, hey, we're right over here, come get us, okay? So we do our best to try to hide them in plain sight that way, much like we do with giving them haircuts and showers and the medical care and their laundry service that we do, to hide them physically in plain sight.
Right.
The bottom line is, until Christ returns, I'm a believer, I don't hide that. Till he returns, the homeless will be with us.
Right.
So let's accept that fact and address it appropriately.
So we know what it feels like when we're outside. Maybe we're at the beach all day, or maybe we're out shopping and we go inside and feel that relief of the AC. Homeless people, they're not feeling that relief at all for months. So what kind of toll does that take on their mental health, where it's always so hot? They're either wet from the rain or they're wet from sweating.
All the time, and they never get a break. So, you're going to have people who are moody, who are hot, who are irritable because they have a headache, or they have body aches because they just haven't been able to stop and just get relief like we do.
I mean, you think about it, you've been in the rain, and everybody knows typically, up north it rains. Everybody loves it because it seems to cool things down.
Yeah.
It rains in the south and the humidity kicks in.
Right.
It's worse than the rain.
It's worse, right,
Okay.
right.
Now, nighttime hits, you're still damp, okay? And you're trying to find a place to lay down. And then possibly law enforcement officers waking you up at 2, 3 o'clock in
Or
the
someone
morning.
stealing your
flashlight in eye.
stuff.
Or somebody stealing your stuff because you don't. I compare it to when my girls were little, okay? I always, your radar's up. You're listening for your kids all the time.
All the time.
Okay. It's almost the same thing as you aren't getting a real good rest because you're making sure people aren't stealing your stuff. You're making sure that if somebody comes up on you, I mean, homeless people get mugged all the time. And it's typically not other homeless people that mug them. They're getting mugged. So they've got one eye open all the time.
Yeah.
So they're not getting properly rest, which then now you got someone who's not eating properly, not getting the proper rest. And then someone says, get a job, you bum. It's probably not going to go well.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And people need to consider that, especially this time of year, because I mean, truth is, I'm at an age where if I don't get close to 8 hours of sleep, I struggle the rest of the day. I just,
And that's on a mattress.
and that's
Where
on a
people
nice
are
king size bed with my
trying
air
to
cranked down
target
to
you.
about 72.
Right.
You know, or how about I love the beach. I mean, if
Yeah.
I could live at the beach, not actually live on the beach like some people do,
Yeah.
but if I could just, you know, it was funny as I live so close to the beach, and I haven't been to the beach in 5 years. At least not the
haven't?
beach I live near. No, I haven't. I used
you
to go to the beach.
serious?
I used to go to Cocoa Beach every Monday,
Oh my gosh.
and I haven't been to the beach since I moved over to Merritt Island. But anyhow, that's
Well,
another
that
story.
was a plan.
Yeah, it worked out really well.
That's why you
well, you
moved
know,
there,
the
wasn't it?
pandemic hit, and then we
Yeah,
opened the other
of
campus.
course,
and
right,
quite honestly,
right.
my boat hasn't left the dock in a year and a half. So,
Oh,
you know,
we'll
we're
change
we're
that.
so busy when
We'll
you're
take a
when you're
mental
serving.
health day and change
Well,
that.
you're serving 800 people
Yeah.
a week, 800 visits a week. That's a lot of stuff to take care of. But going back to what we were talking about is, you know, every once in a while when I came back to the beach, I would like to come home sometimes because I've got a pool. I'd get in the pool first and just kind of cool my body down. Because I found that if I just jumped in the shower and came back out, my body temperature was still up. So all of a sudden I'm sweating.
Sweaty.
Yeah.
So I'd go sit out in the pool, you know, for 30 minutes or so and just kind of cool my body down, then go in and take a cool shower and be done with it. But every once in a while you came back and you got one of those nasty headaches just from being dehydrated
Yep.
from the sun
Yep.
beating down on you. It felt
Yep.
great all day until it didn't.
Right.
Now we go home and we take some Tylenol, we turn down the air down, whatever. We have a cold drink, and we can sit there in our lazy boy, whatever, take all of it away. You not only do not have access to Tylenol, you don't have access to a
Yeah.
lazy boy
Yeah.
or a cold drink, and somebody's moving you along constantly.
Yeah. Never a break.
There's just our bodies were not designed to take on that much physical trauma, because that's what it is. It becomes trauma when it comes to that point where you're not properly caring for it. You're creating trauma for your body.
So how can these people move forward, or how can they hold a job if they're so exhausted and they're stressed?
The bigger question is, how can they even get a job? Because people will judge them the minute they walk in. That's one of the beauties of what we do, is that we're able to offer that laundry service every week, the basic medical attention, the showers, the haircuts, the laundry service, and all those type of things. We can better position somebody, but it's hard. A lot of our folks, here's what's interesting. We had over in Brevard, we've had 10 people recently go to work this past week.
Wow.
Most of those jobs were at night because that's when the people would hire them for.
Okay.
Now, the challenge is now they're going to work into the night or overnight. Then what?
Right.
You know,
Where are
when
they
are
gonna
you going to rest? Because
Right.
even in Cocoa now, where the officers are allowing them to sleep until 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. Before they wake them. Even then, if you're working all night, 6 a.m. is an early rise.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you've got to be on the move during the day, trying to find
In the
out,
sun and-
eat. You're in the sun again.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like being caught in a vortex
Yeah.
that you can't get out of, and then you throw on people being ugly to you, which is often the case, and it makes for a pretty miserable existence. The sad part is you know, some people say, well, he did it to himself. Maybe. And,
Right.
you know, sometimes I can tell you, any one of you people that tell me that you did not make some stupid decisions in your life, some of them just paid for. I tell a lot of our guests, I say, the difference between me and you is you got caught, I didn't.
Right.
In fact, I know there's things that I did that were worse when I was younger.
Right.
I didn't get caught. Why? I don't know. I don't have an explanation for it. Okay. And, but that's just the truth. And, you know, we make it very, very difficult to get out of homelessness. And then you throw on this weather, it makes it really tough because, again, nobody likes BO.
Yeah.
Okay. You find someone likes BO,
Right.
now I was going to say they're French, but I didn't want the French to get mad at me.
Get a
Why not?
nasty gram.
Nasty Graham.
Why not?
No, I just, you know, I've traveled the world. I've been blessed to travel the world. There's some places, all kidding aside, there's places that body odor
Yeah.
is an attractive thing. Okay. We in the United States don't feel that way. Okay. And so if there's a hint of body odor, it really, your chances of getting hired go down, way down.
Right.
Even if, here's the funny part, even if it's a construction type job.
Really?
Okay, because
I suppose
nobody,
you need to go
hey,
in
when you
there
first get in
and-
the truck in this morning, nobody wants to,
Yeah.
on the way home, you can't smell anything because you all smell the same. On the way in, everybody smells everything. So let's just call it for what it is.
Shelley, so we've talked about before about helping them get their birth certificate, their driver's license. What is happening in the summertime, with the rain and they're losing all of these things? How are you guys helping the homeless get these important documents so they can go and get a job?
So one thing that we do is we work with the, iDignity, and we have found a way to work with the DMV as well,
Okay.
to where, people can go and get reprints of their, ID, or they can go to iDignity and get, new birth certificates, new
Nice.
social security cards, things like that. And then another thing that we've done is we've given them, plastic covers
Okay.
to help
To help
with
keep
the
it dry.
rain and stuff like that. And then we have a couple people who have said, can you just keep this for us? So we have a library that keeps these people's documents under lock and key as well.
Nice. So people often think that I've heard, and I didn't really even honestly think of it myself, as the homeless being drug addicts, alcoholics. They're the only ones out there on the street. But the reality is there's families with children and schools out. So maybe that was the one relief that the kids had to eat or get shelter. What's happening to these families and the kids now that it's summertime and there's no school?
Oh, well.
Not for us, though.
No, but I'm
That's
saying,
what's happening.
realistically, now look, there are some organizations out there, but they are sporadic and they're few and far between. There are some people doing fine work out there. It takes a lot. There's a reason there's a gas station on every corner. Okay, it's almost like you need some of the stuff every couple miles, and it's just not available. The challenge we have ourselves is we already can't keep up with the current demand. With school letting out, we're going to see more need of that magnitude, and trying to figure out how to meet that, it's tough. You can't give what you don't have. I used to do this thing with the home. I still do it sometimes when I sit down in advocacy meetings sometimes, and I'm trying to get them to understand the value of things and why certain things can't happen. And I'll say, Tracy asked me for $100. And so you say, okay, Scott, give me $100. And I'll reach in my pocket and I'll pull my whole pocket out. There's nothing there. And I simply say, I can't give you what I don't have. Our food, clothing, and hygiene pantries right now are already bare. And school just got out. And we just do not have the resources, the financial resources, to keep buying food, clothing, and hygiene. We depend very much on our donors to help us with that. But we also we have specific needs. People drop stuff off that we can't possibly use, but we spend money to get removed because it didn't sell in their garage sale. If you go to Facebook, any one of our Facebook pages, there's very specific list. If you go to our website at matthewshopeministries.org, there's very specific list of hygiene, clothing, and food items that we need.
Okay.
And we can explain to them why we want those specific items. Like clothing, we don't take dress clothing. Okay, somebody said, well, you can sell it. I don't have a thrift store. Okay, what I need is blue jeans. I need shorts. Right now, believe it or not, we're completely out of t-shirts. Okay, my only option is there's places I can buy shirts, but they're still costing me about $3 a piece.
Yeah.
If I'm doing 800 shirts in a week at $3 a piece, just do the math. We just simply can't. But we know that you at home have blue jeans you're never going to fit in again. Okay. And if you get down there again, you're not going to want them. You're going to want to go buy something
You're not
new
going to want the ones that
and
are
feel
there.
good about it, right?
That's right.
So give us the old blue jeans. Give us the shorts. Give us the gently used. I don't need your pitted out T-shirts or stuff with holes. People give it to us.
Oh.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, then we've got to take time and spend money processing
You wouldn't
it
let
through.
your kid wear it, don't give it.
I tell people, if you won't wear it again because you don't like the style anymore, the color, whatever, cool. But if you give it to us because you wore it out, it's worn out.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I get people get mad at us because we don't take used undergarments. Now we'll take used bras because bras are so expensive.
So expensive, right.
And
And
most
they're
women
different.
don't wear the same bra day after day after day after day.
Right.
Okay. When it comes to underwear and socks, I don't care if you washed them. My question to you is, if I washed my underwear right now and gave them to you, would you want them? Well, of
Right.
course not.
Right.
So why would you expect somebody else?
You can't
That's
go
another
into
way
a
of
store and
saying
buy them
you're less than
reused.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, our hygiene items, we're typically looking for travel size hygiene items. And I'll have people say, well, Scott, the bigger ones economically make more sense. No, you're thinking of somebody who lives in a home. Our people, there's 3 reasons why we do travel size. And this is like what you get at, I'm not talking about hotel, though we'll take those. We're talking about like what you get at Walmart or Target or whatever. Costs $1.50. It's because, one, it has no street value. It's $1.50. What are you going to trade it for?
Right.
Number 2, everybody's living out of a backpack, so it's easy to carry around. And number 3, it's just enough to get you through the week. How do we help you work your way out of homelessness if I'm only seeing you now and then?
Right.
I
We
want
need
to see you
build
on a regular basis. Yeah, build that relationship.
Right.
Okay. Food-wise, okay, we want single-serve type stuff. Again, people say, yeah, but Scott, the big one's only 20 cents more. Yes, here's the problem. You're thinking of someone who gets to put that into a container tonight, put it in your refrigerator.
Right.
They keep it. 2 things are going to happen. Either they're going to draw rats to themselves, they're going to get bugs, or if they try to eat it the next day, they're going to get food poisoning.
Right.
So we prefer pop top if we can, and we want travel size. That's what we prefer. Again, when I said it back to the clothing, shorts, blue jeans, running or mesh style shoes. Keep it simple. Bringing all that other stuff to us, we don't want to sound ungrateful, but the truth is, we typically either have to throw it away or we redonate. Last year alone, we redonated $1.5 million worth of stuff to
What
other
takes
organizations.
time and resources from your
yes.
team that could be spent somewhere else. Shelley, what?
Not that I don't appreciate those golf clubs that someone left the other day, because I'm sure we have a homeless person that's ready to go take it up.
We need a whole new mindset here.
The hockey sticks were a favorite.
Come on.
Right.
Hockey sticks, yes.
Shelley, what specific summer needs do you guys? What are you guys looking for specifically?
I mean,
for
we've already
summer?
talked about it, but tents, tarps,
Okay.
Lots of water.
lots of water,
do you guys need like
bug
mosquito spray?
bug spray, sunscreen.
Sunscreen.
We've talked
Yes.
about this in other episodes in the past that, mosquitoes are terrible in Florida, and they become a real health hazard for the homeless because we've all scratched open a bite here and there, and we just wash it off. And usually that's enough, or we put a little antiseptic on it. They're in that damp, moist environment, and we see some horrible infections.
Yeah.
Just from a mosquito bite.
Yeah, just from a simple mosquito bite. What's the antiseptic stuff that we like? The little tubes of it.
The Neosporin.
Neosporin.
Yeah.
Neo to
Triple
go.
antibiotic. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like
Any
that.
antibiotic?
Go through a lot of that
Okay.
again this time of year because it's so moist and damp out there that if they scratch themselves, that alone could create a major health issues that we wouldn't even consider living inside.
Yeah.
Do you guys put together bags for your guests, or do you just do like bags for needs? I know a lot of organizations, they'll put together bags and give out to the homeless. Or how is that?
Like a
work for you
hygiene
guys?
bag or something like that?
Yeah.
We don't, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I look, I'm going to I probably will get a nasty gram on this one. Okay. I get people upset when I say this. A lot of churches will, I know everybody's hoping I didn't say nasty gram. Got to say it. It's what it is. A lot of churches or organizations will get together.
Yeah.
And they'll do they'll bring in all these different things, and they go around and everybody goes like an assembly line and picks up these bags and they say, hand them out to the homeless. I'm telling you from someone who's been homeless, here's what's going to happen with your bag. They're going to pick out what they want and they're going to throw away the rest.
Which causes a problem with the environment.
Which then causes a problem with the
Yes.
environment. It gets
Yes.
people upset because they see trash or
Yes.
people are ungrateful. And part of the challenge is a lot of times the homeless won't say no because
Right.
if they say no, they may not get it again.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've taken the approach of the simple question. And listen, this really steps way out there outside the box. Is what do you need today?
Right.
And then
Right.
give them what they need.
That empowers them as well, I can
Oh,
imagine, because
it's dignity at its
They
best.
haven't been asked that before.
Nobody asks
Right,
you what
right.
do you need. You know, it's look again. Don't misunderstand this as you're a bad person if you do this.
Right.
Sure.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying a homelessness is.
But it's a whole new way of thinking, because my mind has changed so much when I've met you, Scott. You're like, well, think of it this way. Just like with the food and the individual pop top. Because when we went shopping, I'm like, oh, let's get the value size. And he's like, no. And I'm like, well, why? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Of course it makes
Right.
sense now, looking at a whole new perspective and through their eyes and through their life.
Well, something. Okay, you ever make peanut butter jelly sandwiches? How do you make them?
With peanut butter, I take the jelly out of the refrigerator, I take the bread out of the pantry, and I slap on the peanut butter, I slap on the jelly, and put
Right.
it together.
Okay, what's wrong with that? Nothing. Except here's the thing: we go through hundreds of sandwiches. I mean, again, think of this. 800 visits a week. I don't even know how many sandwiches we're doing now. We do meat and cheese and we do peanut butter and jelly.
Yep.
We ask people when you make peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter on both sides of the bread,
Okay.
then the jelly.
Yep.
Because that way it won't become soggy.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Okay. When you put in,
Would
when
have
you
never
do meat
thought
and
that.
cheese, don't put on condiments. We got condiments. We'll give them the mustard
Okay.
or the mayonnaise. Just put the meat and the cheese and the bread, put it in a plastic bag, on we go.
Okay.
If we happen to not use them all, we can always put them in our freezer, what have you. But keep in mind, our mobile teams right now, the number of people who are seeing on our mobile teams is doubling and tripling right now. So it used to be we saw 20 to 30 people on the mobile teams on a single day,
And you guys go out twice a week?
twice a week,
Twice a
both
week.
locations. And now they're seeing last week, one day, we just saw 77 in one day. Here's the really sad part is out of the 6 new people we saw that day, 3 of them were between the ages of 77 and 80.
Really? Why is this?
We're seeing a whole lot more seniors that have pensions, have their Social Security, but they lost a spouse. And one, that pension wasn't designed for this economy, but often when they lose the spouse, they lose a part of their pension and a part of their Social Security. And so we're seeing a number of, most of these are women in their late 70s to early 80s that are first-time homeless.
And one thing I want to address that we haven't really talked about is I had a conversation with a guest this week, and I said, he was talking about his kids. And I said, why don't you go to your kids? He said, I don't want them to know I'm homeless.
So their families don't even know.
They don't even
Especially
know.
when it comes to men.
Yeah.
The men typically are very prideful. And I compare it to this. When we were younger, we always traveled to the grandparents' house. Okay. Now the grandparents do most of the traveling. So here, Dad's got them convinced. They live up north. Dad's got them convinced he's living retirement down in Florida.
Right.
He's afraid to fly. That's why he takes the bus. No, he takes the bus because he can afford it.
Yep.
Okay. If he can afford
Yeah.
it. Okay. He cleans himself up. He goes up north for a week or two, and he comes back. And mostly what the men will tell me is my children have enough challenges of their own.
Yep.
They understand the economy. They don't need my problems. Okay. A lot of it is just prideful. My son always looked up to me. I don't want him to think that I become less of a man than I was.
Yeah. I mean,
You
I
know.
guess I can understand that, because I would never want to tell my children that I'm homeless.
And a lot of women don't either. They're more likely to tell. But here's what I have found interesting is how many people have outlived their children
Yeah.
and how many people didn't have children.
Yep.
There's no family left. The
Yep.
brothers and sisters are gone.
Where
Anybody
do
that
you
could
turn? Who do you turn to?
Well, right. Right.
because there's nothing out there. So, people forget in the state of Florida not having a state tax also is we don't have a lot of social services other places would have.
Okay.
So that's another challenge you have on top of everything else. And then when you have, the Florida Senate and House putting this new HB 1365 into law October 1st, making it illegal to slip outside, that just creates that much more of a problem. because there's cases where you could, even being in your own vehicle, still get arrested
Wow.
because you're parking on private property. And it will be up to the officer to decide whether maybe you felt you drank a little too much, so you slept in your car, or that you are just homeless and you were sleeping in your car. He can decide whether that's an arrestable offense or not.
So there's many families sleeping in their car. We talked, a little bit earlier in this episode about the kids not being in school and they're sleeping and they're living in their cars. What are they going to do with those families?
You know,
We've talked in past episodes and about how our homeless guests are so resourceful. They're realizing that they can sleep in a vehicle
Okay.
as long as they're on private property. So a lot of our homeless guests are actually going and renting U-Hauls because, or whatever company you want to call it
Sure.
right now. The most recent one was a U-Haul. We had 2 U-Hauls parked in front of our location because that was okay for them because they legally rented it and they were legally on private property.
Wait, so they're in the U-Haul? They're
They're
just
living in the U-Haul. Yes.
in the heat?
In the
Oh, it
heat.
gets better.
And can you imagine that heat? It's a hot box.
it gets better. I have heard some of them that are paying people rent to park in the driveway, so they're on
Yeah.
private property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We met several people over the years that have rented someone's laundry room.
Oh, yeah.
They're sleeping on that little bit of floor space between the washer and dryer and the wall.
Or sheds. Sheds.
Renting their shed,
Yeah.
living out in the backyard, renting a spot to put their tent in back. I mean, some of these things defy anything I can possibly get my head around. But when I think of especially kids whose bodies are already not fully developed to regulate themselves
Right.
like our bodies have done over time, and you've got them sleeping, it's like leaving a baby in a
I
car.
was just going to say, isn't
It's
it
almost the same
very
thing.
similar as to
Okay. I've had people sleep in the front with the air conditioning, leave the engine running. Okay. The problem with that is if you're sitting in any vehicle with the engine running, even not in a garage, a certain amount of carbon monoxide is going to slip
Yeah.
into the car.
Yeah.
And people have died that way. And all they were trying to do is cool off a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, the things that we're seeing right now, pretty sad. I mean, I've got several folks right now that are living in storage units,
My gosh.
and again,
Because they're climate controlled.
well, some of them are.
Right.
Some of them can't
Right.
afford the climate controlled ones. Most
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the homeless people aren't climate controlled because they can't get by with that the way they can. One that's, they don't get seen as much out there that they would inside a hallway.
But when you can't afford $2,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment, what do you do?
Right.
well, that's
Right.
it.
That's sad that you have to.
That's it. I mean, so many things have happened since the pandemic that I really don't believe the average person is quite aware of that's taken place. Part of what happened is during the pandemic, our federal government decided that people weren't going to have to pay rent.
Why is that?
They didn't ask who could or who couldn't pay rent. They just said no one had to pay rent. So there's people that could have that chose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple things happened. Once that was taken away, they got evicted. Now they get eviction in Florida. You're not going anywhere with an eviction. That's one problem. Number two, typically it was mom and pops that owned a small hotel or a number of homes that was their retirement. They still had to pay their mortgage, even though they weren't collecting rent. So what
Yeah.
happened when this all came to an end, most of those mom and pop operations turned their properties over to property managers. Property managers then said, okay, you can only move in if your salary is 3 times what your rent is. So one bedroom apartment's averaging $2,000. You got to make $6,000 a month, $72,000 a year to live in a 1-bedroom apartment. This is why so many young people are becoming homeless or coming back home. And we have Sarah back home with us. Charlene's son is 20, going on 28. He's living with 5 other guys that are between 28 and 33 because they themselves, even working overtime, overtime doesn't count. It's
Right.
only what you do in those 40 hours.
Yeah.
So he actually was disqualified for a place he qualified for with his girlfriend. When she moved out, even though he paid his rent on time
Right.
for the rest of the year, When he went to go back in, they said, well, yes, you paid for it, but a big chunk of your pay came from overtime, so that doesn't count.
Wow.
Okay. So, there's so many things that I think people aren't considering. Now you take all those horrible things, now you throw in what they think will be the hottest summer and possibly the biggest hurricane season we've seen in a while. The good news is we bring people in on the hurricanes. My concern is the last hurricane, which was 2 years ago.
Yeah. 2 or 3 years ago.
Both our locations, well, no, because we were open there.
It was 2 years, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so we weren't technically open in Brevard. Each of our location averaged 65 people a night for a couple nights. And think about this. Our numbers from 2 years ago are like triple what they were.
Wow.
Where are we going to put them all?
Where are we going to put these people?
Yeah.
And we're trying to reach out to partners that might house them. Nobody wants to do it.
What about churches?
No, the churches are the first ones that have said no.
Really?
Unfortunately, when I started Matthew's Hope, that's what I try to do is get the churches to work together. And
But
one
I
of the
feel
questions
like
was always,
so many churches have a big sanctuary,
Sanctuary, right,
or a
right.
big meeting area. So those would be the ideal spaces.
Sure.
What have they come?
Well, Joel, a lot of people don't realize Joel Osteen in Houston, when the hurricane hit out there, and he didn't allow people to come in.
But he has one of the biggest.
He had a huge arena. Okay, if you don't believe me, look it up yourself. True fact, true story. Somehow, look, I'm an ordained pastor, whether people want to believe that or not. They can choose what they want to believe about me, but what I will tell you is that I do not understand, and I didn't understand when I got out of seminary. I didn't go to seminary until my 30s. I had a 20-year sales and marketing career behind me before I went to seminary. And when I got out of seminary, I thought everybody thought how I did. I was ready to take on hell with a water pistol. So when I went to see other pastors and churches and try to talk to them about housing people when it became dangerously cold, and they told me no, or would ask me questions like, well, what if they came to church? Or what if something got broken? I'm going, seriously?
They just need to lay down
Seriously?
and just mind their own business.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, well, as though I was older than the guys I went to seminary with, I was an adult male with years under my belt, but I was a fresh out of seminary pastor who really thought everybody thought like I did. They actually believed this stuff. Okay. And so I'm thinking they're going to go, Scott, that's great. We would love to partner with you.
Right,
Bring it on. Tell us what you need from us. We'll get the volunteers and we'll help you pay for it. No, never happened. That's how, if the truth be known, that's how Matthew's Hope was birthed. That's literally how it was birthed. My plan was to get several organizations working together.
Right.
Okay. That doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And getting churches to work together is like asking the Bloods and the Crips to hang out together.
I would think that
Not going to happen.
Those organizations would be the first to step up.
You would think so. And look, again, before everybody starts sending me notes about what their church does, I am telling you from 20 years of experience that this is more the common truth than
It is.
Okay,
It really is.
It just is. The looking out for the common man, looking out for our brother, that is just not something we do anymore. The lack of empathy for others is at an all-time high, in my opinion. One of my board members who I went to seminary with, Adam, was talking about the other night, and we were talking about how bad is it. It really isn't worse than it's ever been, which is interesting.
Okay.
That the percentage of people actually going to the church in the United States is 17%. More that call themselves believers, but it's 17%. And that has pretty much been true throughout history, except through the 50s and 60s. Because during that time, when we were at war, okay, with World War II and all that kind of stuff going on, okay, during that time, we went through World War II, then we went through the Vietnam War. We had a common enemy. And people came together to fight the common enemy.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in Vietnam era, then what happened is we became our own enemy. And then after that happened, now they're trying to create this nationalist thinking. And that wasn't what we had back in back during World War II. I tell people all the time, if you ever get a chance to go to New Orleans and visit the World War II museum. I think every human being should go through that museum. And I could only spend a day there. I could have spent 3 there, because it was so interesting to see these videos they've taken of a lot of the Holocaust survivors and stuff, where they have and you could talk to them just like we're talking.
Wow.
It's kind of eerie, actually, but it's so cool to hear them talk about it. But what I really saw there, and I said to Charlene, it was interesting to watch everybody. We didn't care. Your neighbor, whoever it was, is, what do you need? What do you need?
Right.
You know what? We're all going to put a can of soup in so that person gets to eat.
Right.
We're all going to do
Yeah.
this. We don't live like that anymore, and even less so now. And it got a little bit off topic, but when you throw in what we're talking about, it all plays a part in it. It's just not my problem, was what many people say.
Yeah.
You know, it's not my problem. I'm trying to take care of my own family.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that. I really do understand that, and I'm empathetic to what's going on in our today's economy. But the other side of it is you might need someone's help later. And this is what we do, is if we all do a little something, God has an amazing way of making something big out of it. And Matthew's Hope is that proof in itself.
It definitely is. Well, I thank both of you for explaining a little bit more about how summer's going to look for the homeless and what you guys need from the community. So I hope that our community can come together and provide that for the guests of Matthew's Hope.
We'll say one other thing. If people want to carry bottles of water and like granola bars or something that in their car, that is a good thing just to give to people you see.
Yes.
Because the one thing we're seeing is during this time of year, and then again in the winter, dehydration creates so many problems with these things. We've had episodes where we've had some of our medical team here and folks, and they will tell you that lack of hydration creates so many other problems for some of these people that already have health issues.
Yeah.
So water and again, just a granola bar, something along those lines, those are perfect things
It's just
to keep
hearty
in your car.
enough.
Yeah. Something for your tummy, but get that bottle of fluid in you is a big deal. And like I said, we said earlier, bug spray and water, we go through a ton of it right now.
And sunscreen.
Sunscreen. Oh, and
Lip balm.
lip balm.
Okay.
Yeah, chapstick and stuff. That's also a big deal this time of year. You don't think about it because we're going, we're just in the early parts of the summer. We're only in June right now. And so you're looking at this and going, ooh, okay, yeah, we got to be thinking about this stuff.
And they're out there
And just think about how many times we grab our lip balm.
Yes. And we have relief.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys again. Thank everybody for listening and watching. I hope you like, comment, subscribe, share with your neighbor, and really think about helping Matthew's Hope help the community.
Did we mention that we still have,
A matching grant.
yes, through the entire month of June?
Yeah, we didn't mention that yet.
We have a matching grant of $300,000. Let me make this clear. We were not given $300,000. However, up to $300,000 will be given to us if we can raise $300,000. If we raise $100,000, then we'll get $100,000. If we raise $200,000, we'll get another.
Yes.
Okay. But can you imagine going in, we're just coming in the early parts of summer, which normally historically is always the lowest time of giving. People go on vacations and what have you. Churches struggle during this type of year. Nonprofits do. We always have for our 14-year history. But can you imagine us if we were able to go into July and August with $600,000?
I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
We wouldn't know. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you the most miserable part about our jobs the last few years has been just trying to figure out how to keep the doors open. I mean, we've been talking recently about cutting back some services, and what do we cut back?
Right.
Right. What do we choose?
Yeah.
It can't be staff.
It's like choosing, which kid are you going to feed?
Yeah. That's
Unfortunately, some parents are almost being forced to make that choice. A lot of times they're feeding their child, not feeding themselves. But there is a reason why they say on the plane, putting the mask on you first.
Right.
Because once that parent is gone or ill, we got a bigger problem.
Definitely.
Carry on.
No, that's good because it will be a huge help to Matthew's Hope if we can reach that, when we reach that goal.
That'd be pretty cool.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again, and we will talk to you next time.